Welcome to the week 22, a report about self-taught development in the web development, where I share my experience, how I progress by making a website, a project that is currently called, here it is, a kernelizer, which you can see it here, and where I also share my records, what I'm doing every week, the start of the project, currently every 2 weeks. And for now, what you can see here, it is my GitHub, where I also share the details, the code frequency. Here it is. Then here it is self-taught developer.com website, where I also share my daily progress. You can see it here by the date, what kind of problems and issues I had, and also how I have solved them. And then currently, what is the local version of this project? Here it is, kernelizer. It is already live on the web server, which is on DigitalOcean Droplet. And here it is a VS Code project, what I am currently building. So in the last 2 weeks, if you have not watched before the weekly reports, I have managed to move forward and put the kernelizer active. And since the last 2 weeks, I have tried to upload the database, which I currently have on the local machine, to put all the details and also the records I have fetched from the API. I would like to have that inside this database, which is on the live server on the DigitalOcean Droplet. In the report, since the last 2 weeks, that is from the 6th of May, I will just quickly go through these reports and inform you about the issues I had, and then you will see what is the current status and what is the next plan. So starting from the 2 weeks ago, I had an issue when I have tried to upload the database to the DigitalOcean Droplet. Inside the Postgres SQL database, I had an issue that after I have uploaded all the details, and I have done that by exporting the database from the local machine, from the Postgres PG4 admin, into a CSV file. I have uploaded that inside the web server. There was an issue that when there is a key level, and that is the primary ID, here it is, goes from 1. I had an issue that this ID, when I have just started working on the web server, the ID started from 1. But when I have downloaded the exported database from my PC, I had, I don't know which, several thousand, it was the ID. So when I uploaded the database, this ID was not anymore the number 1, but it was some kind of several thousand. So when I have started the code, there was an issue that live, here it is, this version could not save any data inside the database, and that the problem was that the ID was starting from 1 inside the web server, but inside the database was already several thousand. So I had an issue how to solve that. So I have tried to reset the ID, primary ID on the web server, not starting from 1, but to start from the next number, which is after the number inside the database I have uploaded. So when I have done that, I did not manage to work for some reason. I don't know why, even though the ID was the next one in line in the ascending order. So I didn't know what to do. So I have stopped working on this issue, and I have reset it, completed the database on the web server. So the records I have uploaded from the database from the local PC machine were not be saved inside the web server. So I have left it to fetch the data from the API every day. You can see that here, and there was an older data from the previous database. So you can see here are no records from the past, everything 0. So for now you can see the the program is starting and it's working and it's fetching data each day. You can see that here there is records inside the database, but the currency strength meter doesn't work because there is some kind of calculation that needs the old data to make the calculation. So if it is 0, it will skip at that. So until there is enough records inside the database, this will be always the last record to show on the chart. But below that, inside this chart, you can see that the database it's working and the code is working also, where each day the price is shown here on the chart. Then the next issue, let me check this one. Okay, then the goal was, you can check that here. This is the local version here. I have added some of the content down below. This is something that I have prepared at the start of the project when I was working on the local machine and was working on the content, preparing the website, how the website will look after I made the currency strike meter. So I have put all this content on inside this one on the currentlizer, and after that I had an issue and that issue is visible here, that when I refresh the page I call the API and lose credits. Okay, so I will change the code when I call. Okay, no, sorry, this is the one. Okay, just a minute. Okay, more functionalities. Okay, just a minute. Oh, this was also, oh, okay, this seems it was an old. Okay, okay. Oh, I made a mistake. So this issue was before. When I have put the content up there, there was an issue that the CSS files were not loaded correctly, because I think the path I have put inside the code is not the same. The path is, the public folder is not on the same path on the local machine as it is on the web server. So after I have moved forward from this primary ID issue, then I had a problem that the API is calling it too much, and I was losing around 1,000 credits per day, which was not okay, because I have 10,000 credits per month from the API. So I have solved that, and I was working on that. The issue was that whenever I refresh the page on the local machine, I lose 20 credits. So I have needed to solve that issue, and that issue was solved in a way that when the database is read, it is reading is there current date inside the database. If it is recorded with the current date, then skip this one, because you have already fetched the data from the API. So this way I have skipped reading calling the API for the new records and saving the API credits for each day. So this is something that I've managed, and this is one of the steps forward, which is great currently. So currently per day I'll maybe lose around 40 to 50 credits, which is okay, because I have this one, currentlizer, which is automatically fetching the data one time per day, and I have a local version which I also load and fetch the data from the API only once per day. So this is 40 credits, and I have another function that is calling the API for specific symbol. So this is also taking per day some number of the APIs. Now let's move forward. Let me check what was on the 9th. Change. I have dropped down. Okay, so the next step was on the front end. Here it is on this one on the chart about the correlation. I wanted to add the functionality to have a drop down menu, so I can select first symbol and the second symbol to show on the chart. Currently there was Euro USD and the GBP USD, so I wanted to insert several of these symbols to select which one I would like to have. And then here it is the problem. Currently I have an issue. I do not know how to create drop-down menu and how to select two different symbols for comparison. So I could use two drop-down menu, and based on those selections pull the data from the database. And second issue is I do not know how to send a request from the front end to the back end. So this was an issue, how to use .ejs and send the data back to the backend. This was an issue, and what I have recalled from my memory that when I was learning from the Udemy course from the AngelAU, I remember that there was some kind of working with the .ejs frontend and sending the data to the backend. So I have watched again the same course, and then I have found out there is a possibility to use a post request. So this is the solution I have used. So whenever I click the button, and let me check and let me show you that on the local version. This is the local version. You can see there is a content here, some kind of a content. Then there is here a drop-down menu, 2 of them. So I'm selecting the first currency, I'm selecting the second currency. So I have used a post request. When I click this OK button, it uses the action submit and also the post method. So let me show you that. That is here, a refresh, and here it is. Now you can see whenever I use a submit, I get the information about the selected symbol. When you go inside .ejs, you can see here it is a drop-down menu where I have action submit and the method is post. So whenever I click here a button, the type is submit, the information is sent over the selected symbol back to the backend, and where I read these 2 values, the first symbol and the second symbol. And after that, I move these values here inside these 2 variables, and then I call again this one, app.get refresh, the code where it's inside. I'm reading the code about, let me check that, here it is, where I read the database about these 2 symbols, fetch the data, and then send it back on the front end, which is here, rest.render. Here it is, the first symbol and the second symbol, and I show that on the chart. So this was the idea, this was the issue, and this is something that I have worked for several days. So the second issue, you can see, you can also read this on the self.developer, what kind of issues I had. I will not go too much into deep, but I have covered just the basics, what kind of issues I had. Then the next one, I want to see data from to the backend of the post request. This was the same issue. Then here it is, I want to send it from again the same on the 15th. Okay, I'm getting wishes. Yeah, the next step, the next issue was that whenever I have, here it is inside the get method, here it is the call of the function. Here it is, check the data for the correlation chart. So how to use these 2 variables that are inside here inside the post. So whenever I refresh the page, go here to this action, it will read this function, and also it will call the database to fetch these 2 symbols. But I had an issue that this one will be only called whenever I click the OK button. This one will be whenever I refresh the website. So how to use these 2 symbols which are inside this app.post function to use them inside this one. So I had an issue how to do that, because here was inside rest.detect, I had rest.render to send the data to the front end. So there was an issue how to call the database, which from the function that is inside this one. So I have moved the function here inside, but after that I had an issue. There is no variable informations that which should send to the EJS, but which were inside this one, which was inside this function, for example, these variables. So whenever I send a rest.render to the index.ejs from the post function, I had an issue that the code did not work. The front end wanted to have these variables. So I had a problem how to combine these variables and also these 2 variables that are inside the post request. So I needed to combine these 2 functions. So I have found information from the ChatGPT and also from the internet that I should use rest.refresh, which means when I read this function with this one, he calls this one. So my code starts from this one here, continues here, and after that it has the values, these 2, and send them here from this function here, rest.render. So this is the solution currently I have, but for me it is not very good. And why? You can see that here. When you go here inside this version, whenever I click here OK, the complete website reloads again and also fetch the data from this for this chart, and also for this chart, which means whenever I change this one here, everything will be reloaded again. I want to have a solution that only this one, when I click here, New Zealand dollar against Euro USD dollar, only this one chart reloads again, which means calls the only functions for the post action and then for the post method, and then after that calls the database fetch data and shows the rest.render here on the chart for this only. So this was the issue I have left. I have leave this like it is currently. I'm reloading the website completely again. This will be the issue I will solve later on when I finished with all the ideas currently I have. So let's move forward. The next idea was to add more symbols to the drop-down menu. Here it is. This is the current lighter, which is the live version on the web server. You can see that you have only two currency symbols, EURUSD and the GBP/USD. So I want to have several options, and I have added that with the drop-down menu. You can see it here, left hand side and the right side. And when I click OK, it loads and shows these two symbols here. So for example, if I use GBP/USD, I'll leave this one. I have added several of them. For example, let's check the gold, click OK. It reloads and shows you the data. Now you can see what is the correlation between GBP/USD and gold against the US dollar. Second issue currently I have here is that you, when fetching the data from the database, when you have, for example, the date, which is currently 17th of May, the database, the function is not working by fetching the data for the same date for these two symbols. It fetches the data which are last inside the database. So for example, you can see that here that the last database was on the 6th of April, but this value should be already here, should be moved, because there is an issue inside the database. There is no records for this gold starting from the 1st of February. So this is the issue I need to solve to fetch the data on the same date for the both symbols and load them on the chart on the same date. This is something that I will also solve later on. Let me check the problem. There are no problems with adding more symbols. Yeah, this was a pretty easy issue. The next, I have more ideas. I wanted to fix this one, to put more CSS and also to make the website a little bit better based on the design, but then I have found out there is no makes no sense to work on the design right now, because I have not added all the functionalities I wanted to add. I wanted to add more charts here, more graphs to show more details, and also here I wanted to add more of these charts to show more details about the symbols, and also comparison to find more the data that are useful for the user based on the values I currently have. So I have decided not to move with the CSS with HTML, because I needed to learn again HTML and CSS in more in depth to learn more details, because I needed to learn how to change the website design, what are all possibilities. So for that I needed to learn a little bit more, but then the functionality would be stopped. So I have decided to move forward with the functionality to add all what I want to have on the front end part to show the details, and after that I finish, then move to the CSS and HTML. And then I have decided to learn by teaching, and that means I will start with the HTML and CSS from the beginning, and also the JavaScript from the beginning, learning the basics and also teaching others. And then I will learn by teaching, which I have found it is very useful. I will cover all the details, all the basics, which will be very helpful for me, and then after that I will change the appearance as I move forward by learning. So I have found out this will be very useful, and I hope someone also will learn when I teach, and I think it will be in the long run very useful to learn all the basics, because it is very useful to know what is possible and also what are the best practice inside the web development with the CSS, HTML and JavaScript. So this is all the issues. If you would like to follow, this is self-developer.com website where you can see all the details. I add these daily reports each day here, sometimes not each day, but I'm recording them inside the VS Code, and then weekly for sure I add them here inside this website. You can also check this one, Currentlizer, if you would like to check. I think in the future, in the very near future, I will add all the details which I currently have, also the drop-down menu here. So you can also check for yourself if you would like to check the details correlation, what is the currency strength, and also what is the pip range for all the symbols. For the self-taught developer, you can see the coding frequency. Currently, what I have, I am adding 1 or 2 commits per day whenever I can, because I do not have too much time. I have 1.5 hours each day from Monday to Friday, and on the Friday you can see I am recording this one for you, so you can also have, so I do not have too much time for coding, but whenever I have time I also put commit here on the GitHub. I have moved current code for this Currentlizer outside. It is not anymore public, it is private currently, because I wanted to save the code, which is a little bit complex for the next steps, and I also wanted to save the API code, so I do not waste credits, and also if someone also takes the code for itself, so he doesn't use my API code for calling the records. So if you wanted to get the code, you could also use that when it was a public, but currently it is not anymore public. Maybe later on I put some kind of a code here, but if you would like to use a specific code, if it is available, if it is possible, you can also feel free to leave a comment below in the description, so I will check it, and if it is possible I will put it here and you will know that. If you have any questions regarding the project, any kind of questions regarding the code, feel free to leave the comment also below in the description. And this is all for today. In the next 2 weeks you can expect also again next report, where I will share the details about the next step I have done, and also what kind of problems, what is the next idea, and also how I have solved these issues. So this is all. I wish you a nice weekend in front of us, and happy coding.